In the fall of 2031, a deep space neutrino detector buried beneath the ice of Antarctica picked up something impossible. Not strange, not unusual, impossible, a particle. Not just any particle, but one with a trajectory no one had ever seen before, not from a known source, not from deep space, but from the future. It was moving backward through time. The alert went out in milliseconds. First to the National Science Foundation, then to NASA, then to a select group at CERN. No one outside those rooms ever heard what was said in the first 72 hours. The discovery was quietly buried. Publicly, the explanation was mundane: instrumentation glitch, false positive, recalibration event. But the people who saw the data knew better, because the neutrino wasn't alone. It was followed 12 minutes later by another, then dozens. And each carried one identical trait that couldn't be fabricated by accident. An encoded signature, a digital fingerprint. Not naturally occurring. Someone or something was sending particles backward through time, and they were arriving at our present like reverse missiles. But they weren't destructive, they didn't explode. They weren't hostile, they were precise. Each one carried information, patterns, waveforms, tiny bursts of data, and as teams began to decode them, a horrifying realization emerged. The particles weren't just from the future. They were from a specific moment in time, 37 years ahead. The year 2068, and each message was a fragment of a larger picture: coordinates, mathematical models, decay signatures, time loops, and then a phrase. A phrase that would appear across every signal, in different formats, in different mathematical languages, over and over again. The phrase was, "It ends before it begins." At first, no one knew what it meant. Was it philosophical, metaphorical? Some experiment gone wrong in a future lab, or a warning? But one thing was undeniable. The particles were increasing in frequency. More were arriving every day. More data, more pieces, and then came the image. A spectrogram render showed a shape hidden in the waveforms. An outline, not of a person, not of an object, but of a curve. A sharp, clean arc bending back over itself. A closed loop of time. It looked like a symbol. Some called it the loop, others whispered a darker name, the return, because one physicist, Dr. Cale Monroe, noticed something no one else did. The data packets, when arranged by arrival time, weren't just a message. They were a sequence, a replay, a reactivation. Like someone had sent these signals before. Like this moment this year had happened already, maybe many times. And each time, it ended the same way. The proof came when they tested the theory. A team at a black site facility fired a low-frequency neutrino burst in response toward the origin point of the incoming particles. 3 seconds later, one of their own particles returned, their signal reflected through time. It shouldn't be possible, but it happened. The echo carried a single word in the modulation: wrong. That was when things started to shift. Clocks in the facility began to desync. Quantum computers crashed without error. Several staff began reporting déjà vu, deep, intrusive déjà vu. Some saw themselves performing tasks before they consciously made the decision to act. Others claimed entire conversations were being repeated perfectly down to the breath. The world outside remained unaware. But within those walls, time was fraying, unraveling, looping, a contained breakdown of linear cause and effect. And then the deaths began. First, a technician was found dead in their bunk. No signs of violence, no trauma, but their watch had stopped towers into the future. Then another and another, each with the same detail: clocks and devices freezing at times that hadn't happened yet. Autopsies showed extreme neurological degradation, but scans revealed something worse. Each of their brains had developed identical patterns in the synapses, a repeating spiral, a symbol embedded into their own biology. And when scanned under thermal resonance, it matched the waveform of the particles exactly. Something was infecting them, not physically, but temporally. Memories from futures that hadn't happened were rewriting their minds. The particles weren't just messages, they were carriers. And whatever they carried it altered perception, behavior, fate itself. That's when Dr. Monroe disappeared. No trace, no records, just gone. But in his office, one note remained, handwritten on a whiteboard. It said, "Don't try to stop it." That's how it starts. From that moment, the project fractured. Some believed the particles were a warning. Others believed they were a test. A few, quietly, believed they were an attack not to destroy us, but to reprogram our understanding of time before we knew what was happening. But there was no agreement, no consensus, only the data. And the data showed one terrifying truth. The particles were converging toward one date, one event, one impossible moment. July 29th, 2068. That's when the final signal would arrive. And from all projections, it would carry a complete recursive data structure, a full causal loop, capable of overwriting the past with information from the future. A perfect temporal detonation. The end before the beginning. But here's the problem. The particles are arriving faster, the curve is compressing. And based on new projections, July 29th isn't the future anymore. It's next week, and when it arrives, you won't remember this warning because the loop will close. Reality will rewrite itself, and all you'll hear is the signal starting again.